Welcome to Suppose, a podcast where authors discuss the extraordinary. I'm James P. Hassell,
And I'm Sarah Jeune.
and this week we're discussing the hidden meaning of Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is awkward to say because I just learned today it's not the strange case, it's just strange case. I never
Really?
noticed. Yeah, I never noticed that until today. I'm just staring at the book cover going, huh. All right then. That's going to be weird to
Well,
say.
that was awkward. I
Mhm.
admit that.
Also, second fun fact, the actual pronunciation is Jekyll.
No!
hmm
Terrible.
Yeah, it's a Scottish surname. I think it's Jekyll. I'm still mangling that because I'm not Scottish and I don't have the awesome accent to pull it off correctly.
Oh,
But they think there's an antidote that he originally intended it as. He chose Jekyll because it rhymed with seek-all.
seagull?
Seek-all,
Oh, seek all, not the bird. Got
right?
it. Okay.
Yes, as opposed to hide, seek.
Oh, ew, really?
hmm
That's kind of terrible.
It really is, but it's also
Okay.
awesome. I'll take it. And then the first movie adaptation used Jekyll, and then MGM bought the rights to the movie, so they rounded up every copy they could find of the original adaptation and destroyed it. So if you wanted to see Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, you had to watch their version.
That's
Awful.
brilliant. Awful, but
Al-
brilliant.
Also
And
brilliant, yeah. At the time, because it was like the first one was 1931, I think, and then theirs was 41, like 10 years later, so it was relatively still around, I assume.
yeah,
Yeah.
but people didn't have like DVD players
No.
or TiVo.
So it was all they did was
TiVo's still a thing, right?
not
I still
really,
don't have
but
it.
kinda.
Yeah, I don't have it, so I'm there. You go.
TiVo's basically it's just built-in DVR on everything now,
DVR.
or
Right,
cloud
which I
DVR.
I also don't have DVR.
Yeah, it's everyone. TV is just kind of not a thing anymore. It's more
I
Netflix
like
now.
TV. No, I don't like TV. I don't know why I said that.
Oh, no.
I like the idea of TV. I just can't sit still to watch it.
Yeah, I mean TV's cool,
Which
but
is-
Netflix is so much better. No commercials,
Yeah.
and you can binge
I
everything.
do-
Binge
I
is
do
the
really
worst
like
thing in the world.
Netflix. It really is. It is like the killer of my productivity.
Mine as well.
If I get into a TV show, man, it just sucks.
Yeah, I make sure not to ever watch TV unless I know I have a day that I can do nothing, and then I'll watch
But watch TV.
13 hours of something, and then I'm good for, a month or two, and then I'll go watch something else. It's pretty
Wow.
sad. Yeah,
That's amazing.
It's all binge.
Wow.
But it works. It feeds into my darker nature, which is Dr. Jekyll and
Dr.
Mr.
Jekyll?
Hyde. Yes.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
I knew I'd bring it back. So yeah, it's very established that it's a novella.
Okay.
It's very short. It's available on Google Books, the entire thing.
Okay.
I just read it from my phone. Again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never read it.
It's very short, very doable.
Yeah.
You don't even need 13 hours.
Well, that's good because I don't have 13 hours to do anything.
Exactly. And I'm a slow reader. I think it was 2, maybe 3 hours I finished it.
Yeah, if I would have asked you sooner, I could have probably gotten through it, but I
Yeah.
didn't ask what the topic was until like a few minutes before I had to leave for a meeting.
Yeah. And I knew what the
So,
topic
I
was,
read
but I had never read the book either. And I just assumed it was some massive book. And then I heard it was a novella. And then I looked, and then I was like, oh shit, I can read this real quick. So I
Yeah.
did. I'm actually prepared
Yes.
for once.
You are. That's so amazing.
Also, if
I'm
you,
not prepared for anything.
I was gonna say, if you're
And I'm
familiar,
playing with Legos.
if
So,
you're,
you know.
if you're familiar with the movies, they're irrelevant to the source
I'm not
material.
familiar.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the movies either. I'm familiar with the story, the basic premise of the story, but you
Yeah.
can fill me in on that.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
open to learning.
which is why I mentioned the movies, because I had a basic premise of the story from movies, I think. I,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly where it came from, but it's probably movies.
Yeah.
And all the movies got it just way wrong, because the movies are all, oh, God took a potion and now he's like his evil side and his good side, and like
Right.
the good side can't control the evil side, and the evil side tries to take control away from the good side.
Okay.
Totally not what the book is.
Really?
Not even close. Like
Okay.
it sort of hints at it at the end, but
Mm-hmm.
that's where I'm gonna delve into the hidden meaning, because the established meaning, which is stated directly in the book, is that it's about the duality of man, which we've covered a bunch in the past month.
We have, yes.
I don't think it's the duality of man.
Whoa, what do you think it is then? Okay, first of all, give me a brief synopsis of the story, because I probably don't know it well enough to be able to converse.
Okay, so basic outline. It starts with two friends walking, and it's a lawyer and just his friend. I don't remember his name. He's not very important in the story either. He shows up twice. But
Okay.
the friend tells the lawyer the story that he experienced a couple days ago, where a man trampled over a small girl about 8 or 10 years old.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, she was running and he just bumped into her, knocked her down, and then stepped on her and kept going without care.
Oh.
And the guy was like, that's fucked up. And then he saw the guy and he was so repulsed and disgusted by his face that he grabbed him by the collar and said, you're going to pay for this. And then, like, the girl's family showed up and they were like, oh, shit happens. And then they saw his face and they were so disgusted by him that they immediately demanded he had to pay for this. They finally,
Interesting.
yeah, they finally talked him up. He had to pay £100 in restitution, injury, whatever. And
Okay.
he was like, all right, what else? Goes into a house, comes out. He has, I think it's £10 gold. And then he writes a check for the rest. And they're like, yeah, fuck you. We're not taking your check. We don't trust you. Look at you. You're awful.
Okay.
So they
Sure.
wait until the bank opens, go, and the check clears. And the check is written in Jekyll's name.
Oh.
But it clears, it's not a forgery. And the lawyer is friends with Jekyll. So
Oh. Okay.
yeah, Jekyll's acting weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then the friends are, trying to get through to him, like, what the fuck? The lawyer has a copy of Jekyll's will, which leaves everything to Mr. Hyde upon his death or disappearance.
Interesting. Okay.
And then the lawyer sees Mr. Hyde for the first time, and he's repulsed and disgusted by his face.
Sure.
So he's telling his friend, your will's really dumb. I said that when you came to me the first time. But no, for real, it's really dumb. Don't do this. Get rid of this piece of paper. What the fuck are you thinking?
Okay.
And the will's for like 20 or 250,000 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, which I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So, the guy's like, don't worry, Hyde's not a problem anymore. And then Hyde is witnessed assaulting and killing a MP.
Oh.
Member of Parliament, yeah, high ranking. Like, the guy They met on the street. He bowed to him, was very polite. This girl was very taken with how the MP was acting. And Hyde just unleashed on him. Hit him, knocked him down, started stomping him, broke his cane over his face, completely just murdered his ass in the middle of the street.
Oh.
So the cops are looking for Hyde, who is bound for the gallows. But Jekyll is like, nah, Hyde's not a problem. He's gone. He's not coming back.
Okay.
And then it ends up Jekyll's getting sicker. Jekyll's friend dies just out of shock, basically. It looks like he ages, 20 years in the span of 2 weeks and then dies from shock. Leaves a letter to the lawyer saying, open upon Jekyll's death or disappearance. And he's honor bound to not open it right away. Now, Jekyll's sick. All the servants are fucking freaking out. They're like, it doesn't sound like him. We think Jekyll's been murdered, and the killer is still in the house for some stupid reason. So the lawyer comes through. They break down the door. Hyde is dead on the floor wearing Jekyll's clothes.
Aha.
Yeah. And then the last 2 chapters are the lawyer opening the letter from the other dude that died, and then opening the confession of Jekyll.
Okay.
Which we'll get deeper into the confession of Jekyll in a little bit.
Alrighty then.
So, a lot of people say that it was a metaphor for homosexuality within the Victorian age.
Real? Okay. Okay, I can see that.
That was Hyde. Because in the confession, Jekyll says that through his life, during the day, he was the studious son, learning to become a doctor. And then at night, he would give in to some of his darker temptations. Which, this was 1828 or 1866 when this was published, I think. Something like that. So we're Victorian age in the UK. Which is not so good.
No.
So I can see where that could be interpreted for homosexuality.
Yeah.
2 things bugged me on that one. Was Hyde never, that there was nothing to go with that other than if you count Hyde's killing people as an act of sex, then you could have the MP and Jekyll having a thing, and then Jekyll covering his tracks by killing him. But then you have the girl at the beginning.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Now, the reason I brought up the money on all these things, and the violence of Hyde could be a sexual thing.
Yeah.
And I say that because, sadly, child prostitution in the Victorian age was a thing.
Yes.
And so he shoulder tackled this girl and then walked on her, and they decided 100 pounds would suffice as a punishment. Would you like to guess that inflation rate?
No, what is it?
In today's money, it's about 16,000 American dollars.
Jeez. But that kind of feels like what the price would be to buy somebody.
A little bit. Which, I'm not going to say that would be, prostitution prices either. Far from it. But I'm sorry if I bump into your kid and then step on him. I'm not paying you 16 grand.
Well, yeah.
I mean, unless something broke.
Well, yeah. I think the point that stuck out to me on that one is that he had pay only after they saw his face.
Yes, and that's another point I wanted to get at. ends this duality part because his face is always, always described with something akin to disgust.
Uh-huh. Yes. Okay.
And
I think I
disgust,
see where you're going, but go ahead.
yes. Well, I'm not going to say, because I don't think the duality argument completely holds up because, for a lot of reasons. A, Jekyll knew exactly what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
He had explored, because he was into like a mystic type science or a transcendence. So his theory he was going through was that man was two people. By man, I mean
Okay.
human.
Okay.
Light and dark, good and evil, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So the drug he produced was solely that. The idea is he was Jekyll and he was mostly good, but he had a bit of evil. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later too. So the potion just, it took off the mask and exposed his lesser half. So since he had a little evil, Hyde was dwarfish, younger, because he hadn't lived in that mode most of his life.
Okay.
He lived mostly as good, so he was like a 50-year-old man. When he transferred to Hyde, he was younger. But
Interesting.
But his face inspired disgust into any who looked on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Okay.
they share memories, and the best I can tell, they shared action too. And that's what I really want to get into. I think Jekyll and Hyde is a, what's the word I'm looking for? Submission of agency.
Oh, okay.
I think the real meaning of it is people not taking their own actions, not owning their own actions.
Yes.
It wasn't me, it was Hyde.
Right.
Any bad thing he do, he could say it on Hyde, and then in the writing he even writes it out. He goes, and yes, I can't say it was he. He did this or whatever, or felt this. It was conscious dissociation.
That is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's the part I never got. Everyone wants to say it's the duality of man, good and evil. Yeah, we've covered duality of man, but that is men, women, humans owning both of their good and evil.
Yes. Oh, I like that. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things to say to my kids is own your own stuff. And if I'm saying it to my teenager and he's being a particular jerk, I say own your own shit.
Yes. It gets through easier when you put it that way.
It does. Like, oh my God, you can't do that. You have to take responsibility for yourself and your actions, whatever they are, no matter how bad they are. They're yours. Own it.
Exactly.
And then you can move from there.
Mm-hmm. And you can grow from there. And you can become a whole human being from there. Even if you have a little werewolf in you, you might go wild sometimes, once a month, whatever. But you can own yourself. Jekyll and Hyde does not do that at all. Not even in the slightest.
And he tries to like justify that by putting it in the story what the meaning is.
Mm-hmm.
That's very fascinating.
Yes. And he also puts in the story, it's not the drugs. So it's not the alcohol made me do it. No, it's not that.
It's this other person that lives in my body did it.
Yes. That came out because of the drug or the potion or whatever you want to call it.
Uh-huh.
But it was them, not me. It was my darker nature, not my good nature.
That's
it's a
Yeah.
complete mind fuck when you're reading it and you're paying attention.
Wow.
Because uh, in the end, I'm just completely blown away by this. And also, the copy on Google Books, it was someone's copy
Uh-huh.
because they have like underlined duality of man and all this crap. And I'm like, oh, you fool, you fell for it. because
Yes.
because here's the thing, Jekyll knew what the potion did,
Mm-hmm.
that it was going to embrace his darker nature.
Mm-hmm.
He knew he was testing this on himself and that it could kill him.
Yeah.
He states that in his confession. I knew I could die from this if I, fucked up the measurements at all. And
Yeah.
and he drank it anyway.
Yes.
And he never claims
Well,
ownership of drinking it. Of, I did this and now this is my repercussion. Toward the end, he kind of does, but not exactly. And
right.
you'll know what I mean here in a minute. He also, whenever he says he transformed into Hyde,
Mm-hmm.
he equated it to liberty. Be-
Uh,
He,
okay.
yes, the word liberties was literally in the book. And then he enjoyed it because it was all the things he liked as his good self that he just hid from everybody. But now he could
Uh-huh.
do it without his face.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
he clearly states, I could do these things, get away with it, because I didn't exist. Hyde didn't exist. If any repercussions were coming my way, I could simply take the potion again, and then innocent Mr. Jekyll would be there with nothing to pin on him.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you little prick.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so he decided to stop after Hyde killed someone.
Mm-hmm. Because Hyde did it, not him.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Yes.
because Hyde killed someone.
Uh-huh.
Except, um, wait, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, he decided to stop because Hyde killed someone, and then he dedicated himself to helping others.
Huh.
Let me point out he didn't confess and face his crime.
Right. No integrity there.
No, he
Integrity is for lesser mortals.
mm-hmm. No, he gave back to the community by hosting parties and enjoying himself. I swear to God, this is the plot.
Oh my goodness.
And the other part is the part I think where the duality part crumbles and the separation part or the dissociation part crumbles is, so let's say in the most innocent way he trod on this girl
Yeah.
at the very beginning of the book.
Yeah.
Okay, so the people corner him and say he has to pay for that, and he says okay as Hyde, and then pays with a check from Jekyll.
Yes.
Uh, isn't the whole point was Hyde didn't exist, so why didn't he run?
Yeah.
Why didn't he kick the dude in the nuts, haul ass, transform into Jekyll, and be done with it? That was the entire point of this altered character.
Well, it might just be a plot device.
It could be, but like he kept up with this plot pretty well. Like
He did.
the dates, the years going on, because there was like a year jump forward, which I thought I was gonna catch him on something because it was like I read the synopsis first, and the synopsis were like a year passes and no one had seen Hyde, and then in the book the year passes and then someone saw Hyde 2 months ago, and I'm like, wait, what? But then it does get mentioned later that he did transform 2 months before Hyde came back in big time. So
Okay.
he kept track of his plot holes.
Okay, well.
At least in that regard. He could have fumbled on this one, but I don't know. That entire last chapter was Hyde was my way to indulge my inner my darker self and not get caught by it. Until the very first chapter of the book. The very first thing basically said is this is what Hyde did. And then the last chapter says Hyde didn't exist so I could get away with shit. I don't know. It could have been an oversight, but I don't think it was. I think he knew what the hidden meaning of this book was, and it wasn't what he told the audience.
Okay. That's... Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but
you could be wrong.
Very well.
I like your theory.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think that makes sense.
I'm also thinking of it as an author point of view, and if I was to ever tell you what the book was about within the book, for God's sake, no, the book is not about that.
Fair enough.
I don't think that's in an author's nature to be like, here's what the book's about.
Yeah.
Without secretly going, sucker.
Right. Right. Because when we talk about things like the werewolf, I mean, most of the time, it seems like they know that they're transforming.
Yeah.
And
usually they're like telling people to get away.
Yes, they're telling people, but they don't seem to have any control over it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that they can stop, or I mean, yeah, they can't make it go away. And you have a vampire, and vampires just own the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Unless they sparkle.
Of course.
And then they might not.
No.
But, the sparkly ones are
watch you wind you sleep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that I think is...
Well, see...
if you have no agency in this, like you aren't taking a potion to do this, then that's one thing. Or if you were bitten and you can't stop it, you can't help it, you can't...
Mm-hmm. But to do it... Well, going back to sparkling vampires, really quick, a good case for the non-agency thing comes in there where, like, the dude's, like, fucking up her truck and being like, I just can't control myself. I love you too much. I watch you while you sleep because I have to. It's part of my... I can't stop.
Yeah.
There's a lot of not owning your shit in Twilight.
Well, yes, but Twilight is not a good example.
Not a good example, no.
Anything.
I'm just saying.
It's not a good example of anything.
It's a good example of...
Except farce.
Of not owning your shit.
It is that. Yes, I agree.
Which Jekyll and Hyde did it better. Because at the end of it, I'm sitting there going... Is he just copping everything out? Because he seems to be copping a lot of shit out. He's pawning all of his shit on his quote-unquote inner demon that he named. And it's his shit, not my shit.
Yeah. And on the plus side, you didn't have any weird stalkery of people.
No, not really. It's hinted at that a prostitute may have approached him at one point and he just smacked her in the face. It was a very brief mention of that. That was the opposite of stalking.
Prostitutes aren't people anyway, right?
Evidently not.
Isn't that what they thought in Victorian England?
Possibly.
Mm-hmm. Good Lord. Yeah, so...
But
go ahead.
If it was a prostitute, it was hidden in some language.
Okay, I gotcha.
A woman came up to him and offered him a box of lights. I don't know what the fuck a box of lights is, but other what word am I looking for? I want to say critiquers, and that sounds like a dumb word.
Sure. It's all good.
Other people who critique books think that she was offering him a box, which is nice English slang.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
I don't know that it matters either way, but.
No. But
Yeah, if he just smacked her.
Yeah,
I mean,
and he just like punched her in the face.
yeah. It doesn't feel like that's like this is a whole homosexuality thing. I
No,
really don't feel like
I don't
that
either.
seems.
Um, I think that spawned from a different author who was gay at the time,
Mhm. He
and
wasn't gay later.
well, he was dead later.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because gay at the time of Victorian England.
Oh, okay, got
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And I think he was friends with Stevenson. I think that's who wrote the book. I could be butchering that.
Um,
But he read it and said it, was like a very dark tale that hit him very personally. And then other people were like, yeah, we know why it hit you personally.
okay. Well,
Well,
yeah, that's what he took away from it. And that, I mean, that's not, interpretation matters too.
hmm
So,
yeah, I'm not saying he's wrong. To him, it very much did mean that, or could have, if that's
mhm.
what he took away from it. And if someone else takes
Yes.
that away from it, then yes, it means that. That's the hidden meaning of all books. It means whatever it means to you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but for me, I don't know. It doesn't fit very cleanly. There's not a lot
mhm.
of there. Well, there's like no overtones of that. All
Yeah.
all Jekyll says about it, and I can see kind of where it's coming from. Jekyll was rich, and he's described mostly as handsome, and
Mhm.
all he says about anything to that effect is in his younger days he did things at night that he didn't talk about, and he's unmarried, doesn't have kids.
Gotcha.
But neither does the lawyer, and the lawyer goes on long walks with his friends,
Mhm.
and sometimes they don't even talk when they go on these walks.
Oh, well, scandalous.
Could be, could be.
Mhm.
And the lawyer did mention, no man had a completely clean conscience when thinking of everything within his life, which is true. Everyone
That
has
is
that.
very true.
Everyone has something dark within them, and many people have many dark things in there. Some things you never will show to the light of day.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's normal.
Yep.
And I don't think it was an analogy for homosexuality. It just doesn't seem there. I think it's more of the
Mhm.
psychology of it.
Yeah. I agree with that. I don't even have anything to argue with you. I agree. I think that's a better analysis than what everybody else is giving it.
Yeah, everyone else did duality of man, and then there was some the suppression of Victorian England was part of it,
Mhm.
and just
Yeah.
suppressing your urges will manifest them more deeply and more
I
to the surface.
I can kind of see that.
Which
That I can get behind.
that one I can agree with somewhat,
Yeah.
because that's what the whole thing like. Jekyll had decided to suppress Hyde, and he did that
Right.
for 2 months. And when in those 2 months, Hyde grew stronger and then transformed himself without the potion, which was the thing.
Oh. Okay.
And when he did that, he was just unleashed hell, and that's when he killed the dude, because it was like the first time he
Okay.
broke out
By
without.
himself.
Yeah.
Right.
And then after that happened, uh, it was more Hyde was the default, and he had to take the potion to become Jekyll.
Well, I mean, and I think that's pretty profound as well because, when you suppress things, you're not getting rid of it. It's
No.
not like it went away or anything like that. You're just suppressing it and you're feeding it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for a disgusting analogy here, if when you start suppressing things, you're just creating the blister
Yeah.
or the boil, if you want to go really gross, and then it just
Yeah.
festers and grows, and
Hmm.
someday it will pop and it will be gross.
It will be very gross.
Hmm
Yes. Yeah. The only way to deal with things that are really ugly and that you don't like and you're not proud of is to bring them out into the light because then they lose all of their power over you.
Yeah.
So,
Which is
yeah.
good advice, but I don't know. I don't
No.
think most people can deal with that.
Really? Well,
Well, depends on the person.
okay.
I'm just like, what's that one thing I was hearing about that most women have rape fantasies?
Yes.
Which, once you say most women, it becomes a normalized thing. But if you're that one chick who thinks you're the only one who fantasizes about it, how easy is it to be like, oh, by the way?
Well,
I think
I
I think people's most darkest things are very, very personal and shameful to that person.
yes. Yes. But if you talk about that and you give it you figure out that you're not alone
Mm,
and I just don't think it's that big of a deal. Like
uh,
the reason that women have this is because it's a domination thing and all this
yeah,
jazz, and if you just, as long as you
there's also
give it
some biology to it.
agency, yeah, if you give it agency, then you're going to be
All right, but what about something weirder? What if someone's into bestiality, which is illegal and disgusting?
it is, yeah, okay, yes, it's a little disgusting, a lot disgusting, but I don't get it.
Uh, that's what I'm saying. Once you start turning over the rock, it's like which rock? There's gonna be a rock sooner or later that you don't turn over.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, what do you say to the dude who's a pedophile? Because
Castration.
fair, but that's the exact reason he's not gonna come out and talk to you.
But but those things, I mean, when you don't deal with them,
Hmm.
they just grow. They do just grow.
They do.
This isn't something that, gets better. You have to deal with it with somebody. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe like a therapist or whatever, but
Yeah, I think
somebody's going to help you deal with it.
I think therapy would be a fair suggestion.
Yeah, because, as long as you aren't acting upon it, you can tell your therapist about it and they won't, tattle on you.
Yeah.
But
They will secretly judge you.
they will secretly judge you, except that you won't be the first person who has said it to them unless you get a brand new therapist.
Oh yeah.
They will have heard it all before.
But yeah, back to the boil analogy. The best
The
solution
girls one.
is to lance that shit with scalpel.
Yeah. Yes.
Which
I
is
agree.
exposing it.
Hmm.
But and I do see the repression angle on this one. It
Hmm.
does make sense in that. It's still just a little too literal, and as much as you suppress something,
Yeah.
and suppressing's bad, we've
Hmm.
established that,
Yes.
you can still own it.
Well, can you?
Yeah.
Can you own it if you're suppressing it? I mean, how I see suppression is that you don't even acknowledge in yourself that it's there.
But you have to because you're suppressing it, which means
Yeah, but if you don't,
something's bubbling under the surface. You know it's there.
okay,
Whether
fair
you're
enough.
actively thinking about it or not, in order for it to be suppressed, you have to think about it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, but if you're not, in order to deal with something, if you want to deal with something that's ridiculously painful or embarrassing or anything like that, you have to acknowledge it completely.
You have to
And you
own
have
it.
to you have to own it, and you have to be willing to discuss it and
Hmm.
to bring it up and to focus on it and give it the attention that it needs until it's done.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can do that if you're suppressing it.
No.
If you're talking about suppressing an urge, then that I can understand. But
Yeah.
suppressing it to me is an emotional thing, not a.
Well,
What am I
that's
trying to say? I don't know what I'm trying to say, but there you go.
well, on the emotional note, that's why I kept mentioning the disgust thing
Hmm.
about his face was
Yeah.
I think all Hyde was the disgust of something within him. Now, whether if that was at the time homosexuality or if it was, I don't know, pain to fuck kids at the time.
You gross.
Yeah. Whatever it was that Hyde was doing at night that disgusted himself.
Mm.
That's all he was dealing with. Because he was doing that. Because that's the other part I don't like about the duality conversation is Hyde was already doing it.
He was just not.
He just wasn't. Whatever
He
he
was.
was doing, he was
So
doing
do you
it
think maybe it's
privately.
possibility that he was already doing it before,
No,
and
he
when he
says he
was
was.
doing it, yeah. So he was already doing it before, and he was taking ownership then, and he didn't want to take ownership anymore. So he created this ability to distance himself.
I don't think he was taking ownership. I think he was indulging in what he was suppressing
Okay.
or trying to suppress. And
Mhm.
maybe suppress is the wrong word on that one because he was doing something that he didn't want anyone else to know he was doing.
Right.
And he was enjoying doing those things.
Yeah.
But he didn't want anyone to know he was enjoying it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then
So.
he
Got.
dissociated it with Hyde in a
Mhm.
in a physical way within the book, but I still think it's just mental.
Right.
And then Hyde wanted to do these things and took great
Yeah.
pleasure in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was just dissociation.
Uh,
I don't think it was duality. I think it was dissociative human behavior.
yeah.
And it was
But
a
you know,
complete pussing out.
yeah. So something. I mean, like, if he couldn't deal with himself
Mm.
doing these things or enjoying these things, then maybe it's a way of being able to continue doing them without having to take any kind of continued not taking ownership of it.
Yeah,
So,
which is dissociation.
which is dissociation. Yeah, I'm not arguing that. I
Yeah.
I agree with you on that. I just
Oh, that was the other interesting part. Like, there's a log of him doing the experiments and transforming, and
uh-huh.
I think it was noted there was like a couple hundred entries.
Huh. That's dedication, man.
Mm-hmm.
All
No,
right.
well, see, that's the other part is even as Hyde, you could tell Jekyll enjoyed it,
Yeah.
and he shared the experience. He says they shared memories, but I'm calling a little bit of bullshit on that. Like the last time Hyde transformed, and
Yeah.
and then he was like crying and telling people not to come in because they would
Hmm.
see it was him and not Jekyll, and then
Right.
he killed himself to avoid that confrontation.
Did you say he killed himself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that part. I think you just said he was dead.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, they busted in the room and he was dead, but he had
Gotcha.
killed himself.
Okay.
Like, uh, the last line of the book really kind of gives this away.
Hmm.
Let me pull that up again. Because out of everything that was said, I think the truth is revealed in the last line, and I don't get why no one has been called this out yet. It kind
All
of
right.
baffles me. Here then, as I lay down the pen and proceed to seal up this confession, I bring the life of that unhappy Henry Jekyll to an end.
Ah. Okay.
So his quote unquote good side,
Hmm.
not happy.
Huh. That is interesting.
But Hyde was happy.
Hyde was happy. Hyde didn't have a conscience.
No. Hyde's complete sociopath.
Yeah.
That's the other part about that. I forgot to mention that. I just assumed everyone would pick up on it. Hyde's a complete sociopath.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I mean,
mostly a sociopath.
yeah.
Psychotic sociopath.
Yeah, I mean,
He wasn't
that's
charming.
difficult. No, yeah. So sociopaths can be charming, but not all of them are. So that's not necessarily a classification.
Well, yeah. But
So
completely selfish. That's described a lot.
psychopaths are more like that, right?
Possibly.
Isn't that more psychopathy?
Maybe. That's why I was
How
adding
about just brain damage?
psychopathy to the sociopath, because he had no empathy. That was clear.
Mm-hmm.
And then the complete self-centeredness. That's also could be sociopathy. Also could be
Yeah.
psychopathy. So
Yeah.
it was a mix.
It was something.
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't have the diagnostic for
DSP?
DSFM.
Oh,
Is that it?
Wait. Then I think they changed. I don't remember.
Did they change it? They keep freaking changing these things.
Yeah.
It's killing me.
Yeah. I don't remember what it is now. I know what you're talking about, though.
Okay. The Diagnostic Mental Health Manual something or other.
Field manual? No, that sounds wrong.
It's not field manual. It's
No.
something, though.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The book of diagnosis of mental health.
Yes. That one. Mm-hmm. So he didn't have that, so he might not have had an accurate description of psychopathy or sociopathy, and there are wide ranges
Yeah.
here to in. So blah 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 blah.
Yeah, but either way, it was still Jekyll.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even have I've said dissociative way too many times tonight. I'm going to say it one more time. He didn't even have dissociative identity disorder.
No.
Because, like, the personalities, it wasn't a switch.
Yeah.
It was just him giving a nickname to his own emotion.
Giving himself a way to convince himself that he's okay.
Mm-hmm. Which I think that's a somewhat normal thing to do.
Yeah.
At least when you're like a teenager.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's not uncommon. We all do whatever we can to justify our quirks is not a way of putting it, but something
It
like
could
that.
be, because it doesn't even always have to be something dark or seated. It could be if you act weak in certain instances and you wish you always acted like your normal quote unquote self.
Mm-hmm.
Then,
That's true.
then you could pawn off that weak version of me needs to go away.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's a normal thing to distance yourself from yourself. It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
But once you cope, you need to own it and do something about it. And not
Yes,
just
you do.
continue to say, oh, it's that version of me's fault.
Right?
It's like,
It's not gonna fly any longer.
no, it's like, oh my God, please stop. Own your shit. Move on.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's why this is, to me, is a horror. It's a good insight into that mentality.
Yeah.
But, and that's why I think it was purposeful, because that last chapter is just straight Hyde talking to the lawyer in a letter after he's dead. And he's still just like pushing it on someone else. It's like, it's not me. It's not my name. Don't think lesser of me.
Mm-hmm.
It was him.
I think he's turning over in his grave that so many people misread his account. That would bother me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't know for sure that he actually meant it. He might not have been that brilliant. That is a possibility, but
It is possible.
it might have just been a happenstance or an accident. But
Yeah.
you know,
Especially
that would bother me.
since, like disgust as an emotion, that's a new kind of finding, I think.
Yeah.
especially with how closely linked it is to hate,
Mm-hmm.
which means that's
Dehumanized. Yeah.
it's dehumanizing, and it's the most closely thing to legitimately call or link to evil.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think anything's evil. I think evil's a weird concept to have.
Interesting.
I think evil is just the word we came up with to express the collective disgust of the tribe.
All right, reasonable. I can see from your perspective why you feel that way.
Mm.
That makes sense. I think
Yeah.
what people can do to each other is, to me, what
Mhm.
people can do to each other is evil.
Yeah. But
It-
to you, what people can do to each other is disgusting.
True enough. That is true. It is disgusting.
Hmm.
And yeah. So it's both. I can see that.
Yeah. Which I understand the term evil, and I think it has a place. I think it's a good descriptor of, because once you have to go into disgust and hate and drill down into that emotional bias,
Yeah.
it gets a little dirty, and it's
It
just
does.
easier to say evil.
Yeah. And it encompasses what you mean.
Hmm.
It, and universally people understand what that means.
Yeah. Whenever you say disgust, that sounds really subjective,
Mm-hmm.
and evil sounds objective.
Well, and disgust is subjective because not the same thing disgusts the same people. However, evil has fairly generalized meanings across cultures.
Yes, which is why I did say discuss amongst the tribe.
Fair enough. You did say that. You're right.
It's collective disgust
Yes.
is what we term evil. And then
Yes.
personal disgust can vary between people.
Mm-hmm.
Like the smell of a skunk. I've met people who like it.
Really?
Yes. I'm like, holy hell, you're weird.
That is. I don't even know what to say about that.
I didn't either.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
I don't.
Wow.
It's not a choice, I don't think.
Yeah, well, you know what? The smell of cilantro to me is the most god-awful thing ever.
I love cilantro.
Right? Your wired olfactory senses or whatever some people think it smells like completely horrendous to them. And to me, I'm one of those people. Which is unfortunate because I really like Mexican food.
Yeah, it is unfortunate.
Yeah.
I'm having a cilantro salad tomorrow.
Count me out.
Just randomly throw that one in there.
There you go.
But yeah, so on a base level, disgust is a subjective word, but
Mm-hmm.
I still think it ties very closely into evil.
It does. Yes, I'm not going to disagree with that, but
Yeah.
it just.
I feel like I'm giving away a future episode I'd written out.
Did you have a future episode written out? See, and I have to ask with more time so I can prepare
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
rather than although you explaining it to me is always helpful.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just don't agree with you either way, so it doesn't matter. But
Very true.
and this time it didn't matter because I was building a Lego camper.
Yeah.
Right now I'm working on the boat
Oh, nice.
because priorities.
Well, to be fair,
I can't just sit here and chit chat. I have to be doing something.
Yeah, I understand that.
I probably have ADHD, but at this point in my life, I'm not going back, so it doesn't matter.
No, and those meds are awful, but if you get any of the meds, send them my way.
Oh, you want them?
Yeah.
I think I'm good. Uh-huh. I built a boat. Yay!
Nice.
Somehow this boat's supposed to go on the trailer.
Oh, yeah, that's always the thing.
Yeah. You know, why do anything if you can't build Legos? It's like my happy place.
I was never a Lego person.
Oh, that's just sad.
Give me the video games.
No. No.
This is where it's my happy place. Leave my happy place alone.
Yeah, I can't do video games. There's not enough stuff to do.
Oh,
It's just boring.
you haven't played the right video games then. There's
I
literally
can't
Minecraft, which is a
my
giant
kids
world of
have
Lego.
Minecraft, and I don't play with it.
It's a giant world of Lego.
Yeah, but all I'm doing is moving my fingers a little bit, and that sounds dirty. But that is not entertainment to me. It's just like, whatever.
Well, yeah.
My kids love it.
You don't pay attention to your hands. You pay attention to the screen and what you're building.
No, I've never been into video games really. The closest I got into was Sims.
Oh, yeah.
That was it.
And SimCity.
Yes, SimCity. That I could get into.
Yeah. Same principle. Different scale.
Oh. All right, so we will adjourn until next week,
Yes.
and I will finish my little Lego camper.
Very nice. Pictures on something, I assume. Put them on Twitter.
No, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
I probably could do that from my iPad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that then. I will put them on Twitter.
There you go. At Sarah Jeune.
Sounds good.
All right. We will see y'all next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Later.